Hey guys, before we get started real quick, I just wanted to say a big thank you to anybody who watches my videos. I'm not a big channel and I do this for fun, so anybody else who watches this and gets some enjoyment out of it, seriously, thank you. The stories that I'm about to read, I found on the Let's Not Meet subreddit. Now, to any of the authors who may have written these stories, if you happen to hear me narrating this, one, thank you for sharing your story. Two, if you would prefer that your story didn't remain up on my page, that I didn't leave any links or didn't narrate it at all, then just let me know and I'll take care of it. I'm not trying to infringe on copyrights and I'm not trying to get any YouTube strikes against me here. I just really believe that your stories deserve to be heard. You've got some really great ones out there, and I think that the other YouTubers who do these narration videos believe the same thing. So please, if you happen to be one of the authors of these stories, I'm not trying to steal anything from you, I will give credit to you. If you would prefer that I do not include your story in my video, please just let me know and I'll work with you. Thank you.
Number 1.
Someone, please help me. How would you feel if you heard those words and couldn't do anything about it? Hey guys, I'm still fairly new to Reddit. This is my second post, so please forgive any errors. This story is short, and I hope it fits in this subreddit. Let me know if my story is better suited for another subreddit. I was in the 8th grade, I was doing homework, and it was taking a lot longer than normal. I was up really late. I live in a rural area with low crime rate. My house is very close to the road. My concentration was suddenly shattered as the blood-curdling cry of an absolutely terrified woman zips past my house. Her cry was clearly the words, "Someone, please help me." I froze. I just couldn't believe what I had just heard. I dashed into the living room where my grandfather was and told him what just happened. He gave me the response I didn't want to hear. "There's nothing we can do. The car's already gone." He called the police anyway. An officer came by and I told him what I heard. We never received any follow-up information. I was heartbroken. I couldn't even think about finishing my homework. I didn't sleep. I know that this isn't the creepiest story ever, but it's the aftermath that really disturbs me to this day. It's the question that I'll never have the answers to. It's the haunting memory of her plea, without ever knowing if it were answered. Even after all these years that passed, her voice still penetrates my thoughts and my dreams. I can still hear her cry. She was someone's daughter, maybe a mother or wife, maybe a sister or an aunt. Her family may never know what happened to her. Her family may never know that I heard her, and I may have been the last person besides her captors to hear her alive. And I'll never know her name. I'll never know where the captors were taking her. I'll never know what the captors' plans were, and I'm not sure I want to know. I'll never know if she's alive or dead. She'll never know that her cry was heard, and that I wanted desperately to help her. And that even though I know nothing about her, I'll never forget her. I'll never know if her captors were ever caught or punished, or if they are still out there stealing more women. I never saw or heard the person who kidnapped her, but regardless, to her captors, let's not meet. Ever. But to the woman I couldn't save, I really wish I could meet you.
Number 2.
I live on a huge piece of property in the mountains. The land is shared with my boyfriend's parents, and our house is toward the middle of the property. Their house is in the front. Our house is a ranch style, and we have a shed outside our window, only 5 feet away. To see inside the back window, you'd have to be right next to the house. We're the only people for about a mile. For this reason, I don't normally care too much about leaving windows open or curtains open, since the only people here are his family who never go behind our house anyway. We share the house with my brother's boyfriend and his girlfriend. One night last week, we had the house to ourselves. His parents were asleep in their house, and our roommates went on a small getaway. About 10 p.m., we got bored of the solitude and decided to go to Walmart. I went to go take a shower first and returned to our room alone while he finished doing some dishes halfway across the house. As I was drying my hair, at this point completely disrobed, I started to get chilly from the breeze coming in the open window. I decided to only close the curtain to block some of the air. The second I did, I heard a voice from outside yell,
"What'd you do that for? I wasn't finished yet."
I screamed and ran out of the room, telling my boyfriend what had just happened. He grabbed a kitchen knife and checked outside. He didn't see anything. He told me it had to have been my imagination. As a precaution, he locked the windows for me and stayed with me as I got changed. We left the house about 10 minutes after I heard that noise. We were out for about 2 hours. When we pulled back in, he saw a shadow moving behind our house. He quickly drove towards it, only to see a man we've never seen before get into a car we didn't recognize and speed off. We have a sunroom that can't be locked on the front of the house. When we went inside, the sunroom door was open. We called the cops, but they said all they could do was make a report. His parents don't know anyone with that type of car we saw. Sadly, we didn't get a license plate number. The next morning, we discovered a cinder block outside our back window that he could have used as a seat or a step. The screen was ripped. We haven't seen or heard from him since, but we also don't know how long or how often he'd been standing outside watching. Creepy trespasser, let's not meet.
Number 3.
Sorry, I just discovered this board earlier today and I'm fairly new to all this, so I hope that this story qualifies and whatnot. Also, English isn't my first language, so please excuse any mistakes. Back in 2012, there was a lot of buzz surrounding the US presidential election, and as a senior in high school, I didn't have a whole lot going on in my life, so I decided to join our local campaign office to help gather voter information and inform our city about our candidates. Plus, they paid pretty well, and that was a big thing for me as a high school student. While a large part of the job was phone banking and event staffing, the brunt of the work was canvassing on foot, door to door throughout the neighborhoods. Anyway, one of the days nearing election day, we had to kick into gear and knock on as many doors as possible, as quickly as possible. The most populated areas of town are usually hit first, so near the end, we're left with the outskirts and sketchy parts of town, such as the trailer parks. This all happened to occur in one of the trailer park neighborhoods. At a little past 9 o'clock, it was pretty dark, and although we're supposed to head back to the office, and we're not supposed to ring any more doorbells after 9, I only had a handful of names left on my canvassing sheet, so I decided to hit them up on the way back to the car. We were encouraged to make round trips, starting and ending where we parked. So it's pretty dark, and I'm painfully tired after trotting through the cold early November air for the last 5 hours. I stop at one of the trailers. These things aren't what you'd expect when you think of a trailer. They're actually fairly large and pretty decent, about the size and quality of a small 2-bedroom house. And I knocked. The first thing I noticed is the smell of this specific place. It was a stomach-churning reek of sewage and roadkill. I knocked, trying to collect myself and get over the smell before they come up. And as I wait, I casually glance into their window. That may sound like a creepy thing to do, but literally every canvasser we worked with had admitted to doing it. It was somewhat a curiosity thing, I guess. And it was neat trying to guess what somebody's personality was like, just based on their furniture and whatnot. The strange thing was that there was literally no furniture in there. The kitchen was barren, and the only thing in the trailer was around a dozen containers of bleach. What was even more strange was that all their lights were on, and the driveway was full. So they had to be home, but still no answer. I don't know what it was, but the place just gave me an incredibly uncomfortable vibe. I assumed that they probably were just busy or ignoring me. So after about a minute of waiting, I listed them as unavailable and started moving to the next trailer. As I was walking away, I heard the sound of the door unlocking, so I halted and turned back to the door. A chubby man in a white wife-beater and jeans opened the door. The first thing that I noticed about him was that he looked absolutely filthy, like he hadn't showered in weeks. The little hair he had was crusted with grease, his face was blackened with grime, his shirt had deep sweat stains all along the sides, his jeans were covered in bleach stains, and he had a ton of brown spatter across his shirt. I didn't think much of it at the time, since after months of knocking on doors, I'd seen all walks of life, from people answering the door naked to people who were so dirty and smelled so much like feces that you had to hold back gags when speaking. The other thing I noticed when I approached the door was that behind the man was a huge pile of bleach, ripped out brown carpeting. Again, I was pretty tired at this point and hadn't gotten much sleep the last few days, so I didn't make too much of it. I was just ready to get it over with and hit up the next place. The first thing he says is just, "Who are you?" And judging from his voice and the way he was standing, it was very obvious that he had been drinking quite a bit. I started the script, introduced myself and why I'm there, and asked if Sarah, the name that the address was listed under, is there. He just chuckles and says, "Nope." I ask if he's her husband or related to her, and he replies with a snicker. Yeah, sure. Sarah and I go way back." Finally, I ask if she's going to be home in the next few days, and what he said made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. He chuckled again and said, "I don't think Sarah will be coming back." At this point, I'm thinking that this guy is either just incredibly creepy, a murderer, or the two recently got out of a breakup or something. I'm generally a pretty rational person, so I figured that it was likely the latter, and I was probably just overreacting. I thank him for his time and start to leave, but he asks if I want to come in and enjoy a beer. I wasn't of age yet, and we're under no circumstances supposed to enter anybody's house, so I decline and thank him for the offer, but he persists. He says that he has soda in there. Again, I politely decline. He says what my favorite soda is and says he probably has it. I'm just creeped out and don't know what to say. He says he also has tea or coffee if I'd like that instead. And remember, I saw his kitchen. It was completely barren aside from bleach bottles, so there wasn't a coffee machine or sodas or anything around. Again, I say nothing and just stand there uncomfortably. He says, "How about you just come in for a few minutes and chat?" And I'm just really creeped out by the fact that he's trying so hard to get me into his, or technically Sarah's, trailer. I refuse again, explaining that our policy doesn't allow us to go into people's homes, and that I've still got other people left on my list. He still doesn't let up, saying that nobody has to know and that it's pretty late and I was welcome to spend the night there. I'm pretty freaked out at this point and refuse again, so he just says, "Well, how about I just drive you home and we can chat on the way?" I turn around and start walking, saying behind me, "I'm really sorry, I have to go." He follows me off his porch and I pick up my pace. He gets in his truck and drives down the dirt road right beside me, even though I'm almost running at this point. He rolls down the window and starts yelling that he just wants to talk and asking me to get in and let him drive me home. I immediately turn around and sprint in the other direction towards my car. I get in and see his headlights drive past me, likely still looking to see where I went. Once he's a good distance away, I turn on my car, get on the road, and floor it, going probably close to 90 miles an hour on a 35-mile-an-hour road. The entire time I'm driving, I'm trying to catch my breath in between hyperventilating and trying to push back tears. I didn't bother stopping by the office and drove straight home. I didn't tell anybody about what happened for a few days, and I had never been more relieved to see my parents. I also didn't show up to work for the next few days, which I still feel a bit bad about, since that was when they needed me most. I had considered going to the police with it for every day for the next week or two, but somehow I talked myself out of it every time, mostly because I didn't want to get involved in it and didn't want to be brought in for questioning. After about a week, I realized that it would probably be the right thing to do, but at that point, I figured that he was probably gone, and going to the police probably wouldn't do a whole lot anyway. But now I still regret not going to the police at any point. Every single day for the next month or so, I would watch the news and read the paper, looking to see if there's any news about Sarah or the guy I saw. But since it was literally less than a week from election day, that's pretty much all I ended up reading about and seeing. Anyway, funny thing is that after the incident, I realized how fragile life was. So it helped me get over my deep depression and convinced me to leave my toxic significant other of the time. So I guess a bit of good did come out of it in a strange way. But still, to this day, I am terrified of trailer parks and knocking on strangers' doors. And I don't think I'm going to be helping out in the next election.